All right, guys. Welcome back to Pacific Northwest Sports Weekly Updates. It's been a long off season. I am so excited to be back. As you can see, we have a new backdrop. The rumors are true. Yes, I have some more helmets. A lot more NAIA love for the helmets. I found a really cool website. I cannot wait to hook you guys up with them a little bit later. I also found some pretty cool different things we're going to have this year. So stay around. This is kind of the same old, but we're going to have some new spices to it, and I am really, really excited. Let's dig right into it, shall we? Opening up the year, we have your UW Huskies playing Weber State. They won 35-3. Don't let this score fool you, though. Going into halftime, it was 14-0. UW got its win, but it was a lot harder than it needed to be. But that's going to happen. Kalen DeBar left. He went to Alabama, took some guys with him. Jed Fish came up here. That's really exciting. Let's see what he can do. Now, Will Rogers, he wasn't the best guy at Mississippi State, but hopefully Jed Fish can speak to him and help him become a better quarterback. Player of the game, junior running back Jonah Coleman, had 127 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Next week, UW takes on Eastern Michigan, and Weber State takes on Portland State. Over to the UW bitter rival, Wazoo Cougars. Wazoo got its win against Portland State. They won 70-30, but after letting Portland State score first. And if you watch that opening drive, Portland State shredded them down that field. Now, when you put up 70, it's really hard to say you had a bad day. But the defense of Wazoo does scare me. You can't allow Portland State to put up 30 on you. Now, Wazoo did lose some talent to the NFL, of course. They lost two defensive ends, Ron Stone Jr., as well as Brennan Jackson. They also lost 2 different DBs. So, while it's hard to say goodbye to those guys, you got to have the next person up. And for me, it's a little nerve-wracking to see Wazoo not be able to stop Portland State as easily as they should have. Next week, Wazoo takes on Texas Tech. Portland State takes on Weber State. So, going on over to Cheney, Washington, Eastern Washington Eagles played Monmouth University and won 42-27. Now, Eastern got a nice win on Thursday night, and it's pretty nice to win, especially when you run and pass the ball as effectively as Eastern did. Put this into perspective. Eastern had 6 more total passing yards than they did rushing yards. Pretty much dead set and dead even. It was an amazing balanced game. Now, if Eastern can maintain that balance, there is a world where I think Eastern could look to potentially win it all. Win it all in the big sky, of course. Playoffs are a whole different thing. But put this in perspective. They have Montana State and Montana coming to the Inferno to play them. Their biggest road game is going on the road to the Kibbe Dome to play against Jason Eck and his Vandals. A very, very good football team, but that's your biggest road test. Eastern, if they can be balanced, might be a team to watch out for. Now, the player of the game, I could go wide receiver or quarterback, and I'm going to go with the quarterback, okay? Quarterback Kiko Visperas, who I hope I said that right, but he played so well. He went 25 of 28 for 275 yards and 5 touchdowns. He missed 3 passes the entire game. The Big Sky, it's time to watch out. Eastern Washington plays Drake next week. Now off to Oregon. We have your Oregon Ducks playing Idaho, who won 24-14. Now, in Oregon's defense, they're missing Jackson Powers Johnson. Not really an excuse, though, because he's gone into the NFL. His tenacity, his effectiveness, his mentality, it's all gone. He's in the NFL with the Raiders, and you need your O-line to mesh. The Big Ten is where you run the football. And when it gets sloppy later in the year, you see teams like Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa, Michigan State, all schools that historically, when that weather turns nasty there, they're able to win because they can run the ball. And Oregon, without a strong offensive line, if they don't mesh early, might find themselves in some trouble. I still think they're a great team who can do a lot of good this year, but they got to have that line mesh quickly. As we know, if you, as a rule we established later in last year's updates, it seemed to actually be liked by some people. If you lose, we're not really going to talk about you that much, even if you're a Pacific Northwest team, just because It makes these updates that are supposed to be quick go extremely long, and I'm okay with it. Don't necessarily know how you guys felt about it. But Giovanni McCoy, without him on Idaho, I thought this was going to be just a pretty bad game. But Jason Eck has this team ready to play and ready to go this year. So, again, Big Sky, you're going to need to watch out because Idaho is, again, another team to be reckoned with. And Jason Eck could be a valuable commodity to some people. It should be interesting. Oregon was really sloppy, so we're going no players to the game. Oregon plays Boise State next week. Idaho plays Wyoming. Now, your Oregon State Beavers played Idaho State. They won 38-15. Giovanni McCoy, Idaho's old quarterback, transferred to Oregon State, and he was named the starter. Unfortunately for him, lots of changes happened in Corvallis over the past 7 to 8 months. Now, Oregon State won the game, and a lot of people called it a solid win. That was the quote I kept on saying. Oh, it was a solid win for Oregon State. But I don't necessarily know if that's what it is. When you put an FCS opponent on your schedule, you expect to dominate. That's the whole point of it, right? You get a dominating win. You're paying them to come play your school. There's a lot of things like that. So when I see Oregon State playing Idaho State and only winning by, I think 13 points, it's not that impressive. They need to be a little bit better. So I think overall it's a pretty good win, but we're going to have to see some other things change. Now, Damian Martinez may have left for Oregon. Damian Martinez may have left Oregon State and gone to Miami with Cam Ward, but Oregon State can still run the ball. Anthony Hankerson and Jam Griffin rushed for 160 and 155 yards respectively. Incredibly balanced and incredibly respectable and impressive. Oregon State plays San Diego State next week, and Idaho State plays Western Oregon next week. Off to Idaho. Boise State Broncos played Georgia Southern and won 56-45. Now, I got a little close. All right, it was a little tight around the neck. We don't really want to admit it, but wow. Boise State is going to be hard to beat when they have Ashton Jeanty playing the way he did. Okay? 20 attempts, 267 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Boise State plays Oregon, and depending on the spread, they might be able to cover, potentially even upsetting Oregon. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm going to have to let it simmer with me for the next couple of days before I for sure place that bet. But something to watch out for, guys. Ashton Jeanty is a dark horse Heisman guy, and honestly, I think within 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be looking at him as a potential running back to win the Heisman. It's a very real possibility. The College of Idaho Coyotes played Simpson, California, and let me get this straight. They traveled to California, then saw this Simpson team play in front of their family and said, we're going to beat you by 65 points. The Yotes were ranked number 3 in the NIA polls. It's not like we didn't know this was the expectation for them, but they're going to be in a battle whenever they face anybody. Now, the Frontier Conference is one of the best conferences in all of the NIA, and I truly do believe it. But my goodness, 65-0 is just incredible. I expect the Yotes to either finish in the top 3 of the conference. You have 3 incredibly good teams over there who are poised for big years. Coach Morowski has those boys ready to go. And the player of the game, it's the whole team. You don't win 65-0 and then single out one guy. Okay, if anything, it's the defense for shutting him out. A shutout in college football is not an easy accomplishment. Overall, this is a team performance, and I am super excited to see the fact that the Yotes get their toughest opponent of the season so far next week in Montana Western. It's going to be one of the biggest games in all of NIA, sure to be a huge game. So if you want to watch some good football, that is one to put on your list. Now, over to Montana. We have a lot of games. So, the Grizz played Missouri State. Good teams win, but great teams find a win even if it's ugly. And that's what Montana did. They were outgained in yards. They had less time of possession, but they found a way to win. Maybe it was the emotion of the night, right? They're coming off of a natty appearance. They've won 20 straight home games. Since Bobby Hawk has come back, they haven't lost a night game. Maybe it's because they were blacked out and so was the stands. But if that's what it took, then it was really good they had it. Because 29-14 against Missouri State was the score does not indicate how close of a real game that was. But do you guys remember last year, there's this really good kid from Montana who was playing out of his mind, and I kept saying, watch out for this guy. he's going to be making noise in the FCS. Yeah, that guy, he was Eli Gilman, now a sophomore, reigning 2023 Freshman of the Year. He comes off in his season opening campaign, goes for 89 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Montana plays North Dakota next week. Let's go over to University of Montana Bobcats. You got the Utah Tech Trailblazers, Montana State University, excuse me. You have your Utah Tech Trailblazers playing them. Montana won 31-7. Now, Montana got its win. We knew it would. Tommy Mellett balled out, 60 yards rushing, 3 total touchdowns. He's got to dial in his passing. Utah Tech plays UNLV next week. The Cats play Maine next week. Keep it going. MSU Northern Lights. Okay, we want the Lights to win a couple games this year. And step one to do that, give the ball to Mason Dion. Let that hope to get them win. They lost 6-24 to Mayville State, but the Lights play Rocky Mountain next week, and it might be the time to get a win. That, for 2 teams, is going to be a really, really, really good game to watch. Now, let's hop over to another game. Montana Tech Orediggers played Georgetown College and won 29-22. First game of the year. Top 25 matchup. And you're told, hey, you're going to be playing a top 5 team. They're coming up to you, but you're going to be playing them. Now, the Orediggers, who are playing on brand new turf, amazing stadium, maybe some of the coolest turf in all of college football. It don't matter if you're D1 FBS, D1 FCS, D2, Frontier, Mountain West. It does not matter. Some of the coolest turf in the nation. They said, oh, they're coming here? Bring it on. And they got a win. Now, the Orediggers entered the season ranked number 21, and they must have taken it personally. They have some really good experience on the offensive and defensive side of this ball, and they might be a team to watch out for come playoff time. I legitimately can see a world where the Frontier Conference puts in 4 different teams into the playoffs. I don't know how it would work. I don't even know if it's feasible, but I could see a world in which that happens. Player of the game, running back Lander Smith, rushes for 201 yards and 34 carries, both career highs for him. The Orediggers travel to Carroll College next week. Now, our lost team in Montana, we got the Rocky Mountain Battle Bears played Dickinson State University and lost 17-42. Now, it's nice to see the Battle Bears play football again. As many of you know, last year, their season was cut short due to some violence. It's a tough loss, but I'm sure, like everyone, we're all just happy to see them back out there. And next week, they play the MSU Northern Lights, and what's sure to be an amazing game. Again, one of the games I'd put on your calendar. Make sure you can find a way to watch it. Over to Wyoming, we only got one team to cover, right? We had Wyoming Cowboys play Arizona State. They lost 7-48. Season opener without Craig Bull. Tough game. Flush it, and on to the next thing. Wyoming looks to get everything figured out when they play Idaho next week. Again, Jason Eck, Idaho might be a game you want to look at. Really, really good game. You got Utah. BYU Cougars played Southern Illinois. BYU won 41-13. But you expect this. When you put an FCS team on your schedule and you pay them money to come play you, you expect it. Okay, LJ Martin, 67 yards on 13 carries and 1 tutty. Here's your player of the game. BYU plays SMU next week. BYU has a lot of returning starters. They also have a lot of new faces. So they've got to get this thing figured out quick, especially in that Big 12. Utah Utes played Southern Utah, and they won 49-0. Simple game. Your player of the game, Cam Rising. He's back. He goes 10 of 15 for 250 yards and 5 touchdowns. Utah is expected to win the Big 12, so let's just see how the season goes. It should be slow and steady until that 12-team playoff race comes up. Utah plays Baylor next week. Southern Utah plays UTEP next week. Then we have Utah State Aggies. They play Robert Morris. They won 36-14. Again, congrats. We expect it. Let's get real here. You were down 10-14 at halftime. You came out in the second half, you blew them out, and halftime adjustments count for something. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it doesn't matter, because it does count. But unless they get some answers at quarterback, it's going to be a long, long year. So let's be happy for the win. Let's celebrate it, but we got some things we have to get fixed up. Again, guys, my name's Jay. I'm with Pacific Northwest Sports, and I'm so happy to have you back. We have a lot of teams we didn't get to cover this day today because they didn't play. So let's go over those opponents next week. Bear with me. We're going to go down the list. It's a lot of teams. In Washington, we got your UW Huskies playing Eastern Oregon, Wazoo playing Texas Tech, Eastern Washington playing Drake, Central Washington playing San Diego, Pacific Lutheran playing Simpson, Puget Sound playing Lewis and Clark, Whitworth playing Gustavus. Over in Oregon, we have your Oregon Ducks playing Boise State, Oregon State playing San Diego State, Portland State playing Weaver State, Western Oregon playing Idaho State, George Fox playing Redlands, Linfield playing Denison, Pacific playing Chapman, Willamette playing Laverne, Eastern Oregon playing Montana Western, Southern Oregon playing Lincoln, Idaho Vandals over in Idaho playing Wyoming. Going down to Montana, we got Montana playing North Dakota, University of the Montana State University playing Maine, Carroll playing Montana Tech, MSU Northern Lights playing Rocky Mountain. Then over to Utah, we got your BYU Cougars playing SMU, Utah Utes playing Baylor, Utah State playing USC, Utah Tech playing UNLV, and Southern Utah playing UTEP. Again, I am so excited to be back for this football season. It makes me truly happy to be able to do something that I really love to do. If you guys need anything, if you have anything you think we could add to make the season even better, please feel free to let me know so we can make something truly amazing this year. As always, look at the helmets. They're great. Julio, Griffey, the logo, some Kraken stuff, and a 12th fan. Super happy to have you guys back. Super excited to be talking sports again. Leave comments, send me emails, DM me. I'm on all the socials. Let's find a way to keep the season exciting. Thank you guys and have a great week.